Hello and welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me, I have a Jer.
Hello.
An Alex.
この番組はグランスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
And a Ben.
I'm immune to poison.
Reminder, the North 100 is brought to you by you with your support over the Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Let's start off with our opening segment, the best card that you're not playing. Up to date, Alex. Alex, what are we talking about?
I was going to talk about Putrid Leech, but everybody's playing it.
Alex, you're the only one who plays that.
Yeah, I think you're literally the only person I know who plays Putrid Leech.
That is shocking because this thing slaps. I mean,
it is a 2-mana 4/4.
What does it do?
It's a 2-mana 4/4. Okay, so black green gets you a 2/2 zombie leech.
I thought it was a 4/4.
It is because it has an activated ability, pay 2 life. It gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Play this ability only once each turn. It's a 4/4 for 2. It just stomps in at your opponent. It's a very unassuming looking card. In fact, it looks kind of bad until your opponent's real dead. Just dead to death.
I mean, a Vango Vanguard? What was the
Adonto.
A Vango.
Sorry, the Adonto Vanguard.
A
I
Jenga
think
Vanguard.
is an interesting comparison. That was making splashes in Standard for a while. That was a 1/1 for 1 and a white that attacks as a 3/1, and you can pay 4 life to give it indestructible. And like people are having a really hard time with this sort of effect, and you're like, oh, how much life can an aggro deck afford to pay for its threats?
19.
Good answer.
I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
Like,
Correct.
you know, the weird thing about, you know, your life point, your last life point being the only relevant one is actually true. But yeah, like it's a supremely aggressive creature. It's also a zombie, which is very useful in some situations. Like,
But it's also a green zombie.
so.
Well, I guess you mean like minors. I thought you meant like in the zombies deck.
There is a green version of the zombies deck that plays like this first pick, basically, in like.
Is Dragmangler a zombie?
Yep.
Pretty sure Morn Willow is a zombie
Morn
too.
Willow is not.
It's a
Morn Willow is a
skeleton.
What?
skeleton plant. and
Okay, that's
Still gets
I'm
pumped by Death Baron, but
not super happy about
Skeleton plant?
that. Skeleton
so.
plant.
The funny thing, I tend
Sorry,
to.
plant skeleton.
Oh, there you go. I tend to talk about how creatures die to lightning bolt a lot because creatures tend to die to lightning bolt a lot. This card, for those of you having flashbacks to Type 2 when Jund was running everywhere and most decks were packing 4 lightning bolts, this card was totally fine. This card still saw a lot of play. Admittedly in Jund, but like this card doesn't care about bolts as much. You just always turn it sideways. They're always just, are they going to pay? And then you don't pay, and then they just kind of sit there not using their mana, and then you can protect it if you need to. Card slaps.
Yeah, it's very good. Put it in your aggressive decks that can pay black and green.
All right. Bravo.
Got there.
All right, friends. Well, welcome to part 2 of our Core 2020 set review. In the last episode, we got through the first 4 basic colors, and we asked you at the end of the episode for some user submissions of cards that we may have glossed over that you were curious about, and we got a lot of submissions, and I think the most asked for card was the Cavalier of Gales. So let's start there. 5 mana 5/5 for 2 blue. It gets you an elemental knight with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may brainstorm, and when it dies, shuffle it into its owner's library and scry 2. Wheeler, I know you have important feelings on this card. I know Jer does too. Rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first.
Wait, hold on.
Right.
I'm not looking because we just started doing it without synchron.
And
so 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Shoot on
Okay,
3.
so-
Shoot on 3.
Wait, shoot on 3. So
Shoot on
rock,
3.
paper, shoot.
Yeah.
What?
yeah.
Rock.
Okay, hold on.
Rock, paper, shoot.
Okay, rock, paper, shoot.
All right, Jer, how do you feel about this card?
All right. So in a vacuum, this card is pretty good. Probably like a 6 or 7 out of 10. But it just doesn't really fit into what any of the Highlander decks that would play it are trying to do. They don't really want to tap out on 5 for just a flying creature that brainstorms. Like, once again, not the worst thing you can be doing, but there are better things. Like typically playing a Planeswalker will do a better job of taking over the game. if you really want to win, there are things that win faster. And although Brainstorm is a good effect, Brainstorm is a 1 mana and an instant, not 5 mana and a sorcery.
Like, I was going to say...
And you usually have a land drop to play after or another way to shuffle immediately. This one, you're likely getting one of your cards you don't really want back, which is another pretty big downside. So,
as an aggro player, if this were to come down across the table, I'd be like, okay, I can deal with this. When Tamiyo comes down, I start to sweat. Like, she makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's just like, there's a lot more imposing things you can play when you have access to all the cards ever printed in Magic.
That's the biggest thing with this card and the other 2 Cavaliers that there's the other 3 Cavaliers that basically everything but the red one is that, again, when you are including a card and looking at a card for our format, you are comparing it to literally every other card in the game. So you have to ask yourself, hey, I want to include a 5-drop and I have blue in my deck. Is this what I'm playing? Is this better than Teferi? Is this better than Glorybringer, Arcslogger, Titania? Like, whatever your off-color or on-color threat may be, does it beat out this card?
Well, another question that people have, they've been comparing these to the old core set Titans at 6 mana. So why this is 1 mana cheaper than a Titan?
I'm glad you set me up for that, Serge. So when you look at mana costs in our format especially, although this can be kind of taken to other formats as well, but especially for Highlander, is that the difference between a 1 mana threat and a 2 mana threat, that's double the mana. Right, the difference between a 2 and a 3, given how our early turns progress, totally different. Once you start getting to 5 and 6, the difference between decks that can get to a 5-drop and decks that can get to a 6-drop, it's pretty small. There's not a lot of difference there. So, like, most decks will, if you're mono blue and you're like, man, I need a game-ending top-end threat, you're probably just going to want to stretch up to Consecrated Sphinx, Frost Titan, Torrential Gearhulk, Wormcoil Engine, even.
Yeah.
Like, of Tamiyo, as mentioned earlier. It's just, you can make that stretch because what you are getting by doing that tiny little bump is so much more impressive than, as Jair said, a Brainstorm at 5 mana that you don't get the shuffle, unless they kill it. And then...
All right, let's talk about another card a couple people mentioned in the comments, Mask of Immolation. 2 mana equipment for 1 red. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 red elemental creature token. Attach the mask to it. Equipped creature has sacrifice, deal 1 damage to any target, and equip for 2. Alex, the comparison for this would be something like Mortar Pod.
I really want to like and play Mortar Pod. And I feel exactly the same way about this card. This is such a cool effect. Mortar Pod is 2 colorless, or 2 generic, with living weapons, so it comes with a germ that attaches to it. Equipped creature gets +0/+1 and has sack this creature. It's basically the same card.
Except now there's a color pip in it.
It's like 1 mana to equip too much.
Sure, if it equipped for 1, you'd like it better?
Well, if equipped for 1, it would be kind of crazy. But maybe
I think it would be fair if for our format if it equipped for 1.
Yes, for our.
It would. I think it would be medium in Aristocrats if it equipped for 1.
It's just a little bit too mana intensive. So specifically in Aristocrats, you want your sack outlets or sack effects to be free to activate, like 0 mana. There's a tiny handful that you might be willing to pay 1 for. And an even tinier handful that you would pay 2 for, like virtually non-existent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it has to be free because you need to be able to like activate it and...
Like you want to be able to win the game. Like, to me, this is like not Goblin Bombardment. Like Goblin Bombardment is trying to be Goblin Bombardment, and it's just not.
Yeah. For the same mana cost, exact same mana cost, 1 and a red.
This card and its design are really cool. It's just slightly overpriced to make it not.
Yeah, it's just good. The power level isn't quite there for our format.
All right, well, let's talk about power level and high mana cost. Let's talk about the next card we got a lot of user submissions from, Safara Sky's Blade. 7 mana 7/7 for 4 white. But you may pay a single white pip and tap 4 untapped creatures you control that also have flying rather than pay its mana cost. It has flying and lifelink, and other creatures you control with flying have indestructible.
K is for killing her. A is for assembling her. R is for removing her. I'm just going to spell Caracas. I mean, that's really one of the biggest things here. So, like...
I've got one.
The only deck that I would consider this card, after you had mentioned, like, people want to talk about Safara, I'm like... Oh, those Hypergenesis fans in the crowd. They really want to hear about this card. But no, this card is just... It gives too much. So when you have 4 flying creatures in play, and you find yourself in a position where you're far ahead enough, or there's something in the way, and you're like, I'm going to use my turn to not attack, and instead deploy one massive threat that does something for your other flyers, but like, you don't need to... If you have 4 flyers in play, you're not like, oh, I really need Indestructible to make this board state threatening. It's...
If you're a deck that is capable of reliably generating 4 flying creatures, I don't know that you're the kind of deck that's capable of hitting 7 mana when you don't have 4 flying creatures.
Oh yeah, that's also that. Like...
It's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
This is a bit of a win more card to me. It's like, as Ben was mentioning, if you're in the position you have 4 untapped flyers and you don't want to attack, like, chances are those flyers aren't very threatening by themselves.
Yeah.
Or you should
I
just
have
be attacking.
4 Suntail Hawks.
Like, why... you're fogging yourself.
But then the odds that your opponent has a removal spell that they haven't spent because they're like, I really don't want to spend this removal spell on a Suntail Hawk.
Yeah.
This thing's just going to die immediately.
Yeah, that's the real thing that the whole point of the Skies decks and Flying Men is that, like,
your creatures are all expendable.
Everything sucks. So nobody wants to do anything for it.
And lightning bolt my bird.
They're almost always trading down if something resolves.
Okay. Here's a way more useful thing you can do with that turn.
I feel like you're about to lie to me, by the way.
No, cast Trumpet Blast.
Sure. Better.
Yeah.
Then you get in for, like...
12.
A bajillion.
For a million...
Minimum 12.
Yeah, and also, if you have Trumpet Blast and only 1 flying creature, it still kills them.
All right, let's move on to the next card. And these two are reprints. Typically, unless people are really curious about that, we haven't been talking about reprints a lot in our set reviews, because if it's been in the format for a while, people generally know how they stand. But a couple people asked about these. Let's talk about the reprinted Ley Lines. I don't think we're going to talk about the new ones.
Yeah, that's fine. We can skip over those.
Yeah. Let's start with Ley Line of Sanctity. So both Ley Lines have the rule, if it's in your opening hand, you can begin it with the game in play. Begin the game with it in play, pardon me. Ley Line of Sanctity, you have hexproof. Playable or not playable?
Playable in one deck.
Which is?
Or a spicy meta call, Enchantress.
Yeah, I've played it in Enchantress, and that's about it. Very few decks care about putting this in play. And the odds in a Highlander deck with 100-card singleton of having a Ley Line in your opening hand is very low. Like, it's not worth a slot in control.
This is the kind of thing I feel like you could maybe just, like, completely shark a tiny, like, end-of-year tournament with if you knew exactly what decks
You walk into a room and you're like, I'm going to face 7 RDW players, sweating.
Yeah. Then
I used to have it in my blue-eye control, like, maybe board, and I have played it in tournaments. That was a few years ago now. We have better options against the red mages now, but
All right.
I have played it in blue-eye control. I don't suggest it.
And finally, we have Ley Line of the Void. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. I'll take this one. I believe this card is really only playable if you're going for the Helm combo. So you'd be Helm of Obedience, I believe was it called.
Yes.
So 4 mana artifact.
I will be very impressed if you get this.
And tap. Target player reveals the top X cards of the library target player reveals cards off the top of their library until they reveal a creature or X cards. If a creature is revealed, sacrifice Helm of Obedience and put that card into
You
play.
put cards into your
I've
graveyard.
never seen this one.
Otherwise, Ley Line, if you just revealed,
Right. You put it into your graveyard.
You have to
I was
put
so
them into the
close.
graveyard.
I knew it goes into the graveyard. Sorry.
X also can't be 0.
X can't be 0, correct. So basically, Helm of Obedience, if you have a graveyard exile effect, will mill your opponent's deck. Because you'd put a card into your graveyard, Helm of Obedience says, did you put a card into the graveyard? Graveyard's like, I don't see any cards. Like, all right, put another one in until we hit X. And so it keeps going.
it's just the super weird.
It's just
Yeah.
this isn't how Magic cards are made.
Nope. And that's about it. I don't think Ley Line of the Void, again, much like Ley Line of Sanctity, it's so narrow in the decks that it hates out. That incidental graveyard hate on a 4-mana effect doesn't quite work. Even people don't play Rest in Peace for that effect. It's just like, it's too much of a card slot to dedicate.
If I may suggest, if you're in black and you want to hate the graveyard,
Bajuka Bog.
yeah, Bajuka Bog. Oh,
Nihil Spellbomb.
Deathrite Shaman.
Deathrite Shaman.
Ooh,
there was one other one.
Planar Void.
It's X and a black, and the name has completely.
Skeletal Scrying.
Suffer the Past is what
That's
you're
the
looking
one.
for.
Oh.
That's a hot card you're not playing.
All right,
Suffer the
don't give
past.
away
We'll save this for next time.
We'll save it for next time. Well, we have to tell them what it does. It's X and a black for an instant. Exile X target cards from target player's graveyard. For each card exiled this way, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1
Boom,
life.
got him.
In
It's
response, I'll
gravy-
dig through time.
It's graveyard hate and it kills them.
All right, let's move on. Thank you, everybody, for your all your submissions. We really appreciate it. But let's now move on to the actual remaining cards in our set review. And we're starting with green cards. Up now, we have Bark Hide Troll. Green gets you a 2/2 troll, but it also enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. For a generic and remove a +1/+1 counter, the troll gains hexproof until end of turn. Alex, what do you think about this in some of your aggressive decks?
It's a 3/3 for 2, which is pretty sweet, but also that 3/3 is in the form of a +1/+1 counter, which makes the sort of the counters deck, like the black-green counters deck that I've been working on, which very surprisingly to some doesn't play that 1 mana
Enchantments, Hardened Scales?
Yeah, it doesn't play Hardened Scales because it doesn't do anything. I think this card is amazing in that, you curve this off of Snake, and it's real big. It's also just got an ability that lets it protect itself 1 time.
Or more in the counters
I
deck.
think it's perfectly fine. I mean, this you could maybe even just like play in a vacuum if you had no sub-theme. Like a 3/3 for 2
With upside.
that with upside is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
This
There's a lot of 3/3s for 2 that are just vanilla.
Yeah, there's
not even that many.
There's 2 or 3.
You got
there's a
Colonian Tusker
Yeah.
for the green.
Watchwolf.
Oh yeah, if you go into green-white, there's 4 or
You got
something like
Tusker,
that.
then you got a whole bunch of 3/2s.
there's
Yeah.
a centaur that's like a 3/3
Swordwise
for 2.
Centaur,
That's
that's
a 3/2.
green. That's a 3/2.
Is it?
Yeah.
Garrick's Companion, green, 3/2.
Trample.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
got
the trample.
Terrain Elemental.
Oh yeah, that's a
Ooh.
vanilla.
Planeswalker deck
3/2.
exclusive
I've got one of
from
those.
college.
All right. We're going way off
But
topic
yeah.
here. Let's move on to our next card, Elvish Reclaimer. Single green gets you a 1/2 elf warrior. It gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 or more land cards in your graveyard. For 2 generic tap and sacrifice a land, search your library for any land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Hey Serge, are you putting this in lands? Yes. Are you going to put it in any sort of green-based, maybe lands mid-range deck? No.
What?
What?
Sorry.
What?
The answer is yes.
Do you care about this as a 3/4 for 1?
No. All right.
No, I
this
mean, you
card
do,
is
but-
Drake meme incarnate. The top ability is just like Drake going nah. The bottom ability is Drake going
That's
yeah.
more what that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Does anybody care about a 1 mana 3/4?
Yes.
Unlike
I
turn 6.
No. This card easily turn. Okay, so my playing with this was relatively minimal, but I threw this into medium green, jammed with it, a green-based mid-range deck.
I mean, I
right?
know what medium green is.
Yeah. You just gave me this look of.
I was like, I'm surprised you put it in medium green.
Well, it's because it obviously when it finds waste and strip, the Gaia's Cradle, Caracas, Ancient Tomb, whatever it may be, then it's absolute gas. But like, I having 4 toughness on a cheap creature that you're playing, not because it gets to that, but it will get to that quite easily through fetches, through blowing up your own thing, right? If you fetch land and to activate this once for like a strip or a waste, there you go, 3/4, boom. And like a 3/4 is a relevant body. You're going to play this, you're going to want to develop with it a bit, and then it just becomes a thing that kills your opponent after you've stopped them, right? It's not all disruption, it's disruption that, again, comes with real pressure.
Yeah, like, and your mana investment is teeny tiny.
Oh, yeah, it's just like, 1/2. Doesn't, and also, like, a 1/2, man, Norwood Ranger is surprisingly relevant in, like, a 1-mana 1/2. That's what I'm saying. And, like, 1-mana 1/2s just... It makes stuff so awkward. Yeah, I mean, Deathright's a good example, right? How many people complain about, why does Deathrite have 2 toughness? Right?
I'm looking forward to jamming this into sort of like Yard Sard style decks. You know, the self-mill kind of, fill your bin with junk.
Fill your bin with junk.
Tutor for Cryptavagademe.
Now we're talking.
All right. Let's move on to our next card. Night Pack Ambusher. 4 mana, 4/4 wolf for 2 green. Has flash inexplicably. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1. And at the beginning of your end step, if you didn't cast a spell this turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Jer.
What do you mean inexplicably? It's fast.
It's the zoomiest wolf.
It ambushes.
This I really like this card. Flash is great. It has like the Mare of Averbrook flip side ability that has the upside of winning the game by itself. You just like don't need to play anything else. It's obviously best in like a flash style deck, but I honestly think this card is just like fine in whatever you want. The like power levels there. You're definitely not playing it as a wolf/werewolf lord. That's just added bonus. It works with itself.
No, I didn't. I mean, it makes its own meat.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, it like works with its own ability, obviously, but you would totally play this card without that line of text.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Shared Summons. 5 mana instant for 3 green. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards with different names, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Wheeler.
So, I don't know how to give a straightforward read on this card. I mean, my gut is I cast this, I find Spellseeker Protean Hulk on end of turn, and then I play a Spellseeker, find a flash, and then we're off to the carnival.
Is Hoof playing this?
I don't believe so.
Because
no.
a comparison would be Tooth and Nail, right?
Well,
I think the comparison is Primal Command.
Yeah. Like, all this is ever doing is putting something into your hand, which one of the strengths of Hoof is that as the deck has gotten more tools, you care less about hitting Primeval Titan on turn 3. Like, the progress of that deck early into its, like, life was, oh god, they had a Natural Order or a Primeval Titan or whatever it may be. And now anytime Hoof gets to turn 3 with enough mana, you're just like, oh god, they have literally anything, and now I'm dying.
Is this maybe a card in green-white Vizier?
I was going to say, I think you can play this deck in like almost...
This card, yeah.
Or this card in a bunch of different creature combo decks.
Well, because it's like good.
Potentially.
It's like if you have access to green, it's like find my A+B creature combo. And if I'm not on that plan for whatever reason, find the 2 best creatures I could have.
It does find Scrap Trawler Trinket Mage on curve.
So everybody's talking about combo right now. Is there room for this in a mid-range deck?
No.
Even at instant?
No.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a good way to look at this card then.
My one hesitation with this card for creature combo is that we've seen stuff like this time and time again, that we can apply a reasonable application to why you would want to play it, and then it just never sees play. Like Uncage the Menagerie is a good example of one.
That was pretty mana intensive though, and not an instant, as I recall.
I was going to say, I think instant speed this one is a big deal.
Instant is indeed a lot better. I'm just saying that we've seen very similar cards do nothing. Maybe instant puts this over the top.
I mean, there's your Rug
but
Kiki
I'm pretty
deck.
hesitant.
End step, you're like Pestermite, Kiki Jiki, untap, haha. All right. All right. Let's move on to more traditional green things like the shifting Ceratops. No. 4 mana, 5/4 for 2 green dinosaur. Can't be countered. What's up, Jer?
Thanks, I hate it.
Protection from blue. What's up, Jer?
Thanks, I hate it.
And for a green mana, shifting Ceratops gains your choice of reach, trample, or haste until end of turn. Jer, what do you think about this card?
Thanks, I hate it. Yeah, I'm going to die a lot to this card. I'm going to kill some people with this card, but I'm going to die to it more.
It's so big.
It's got 4 toughness, so it doesn't die to most removal spells. It can't be countered, so it's always hitting play. It's got protection from blue, so it attacks through True Name. That's actually a very relevant ability. Even if it didn't have Pro Blue, you could give it Trample, so it attacks through True Name. Yeah, and if you have 5 mana, it gets haste. It can block basically every flyer in the format. I hate it, but it's really good.
Yeah.
It's gonna make you dinosaur.
It's really good off an ancient tomb.
Oh, great.
Medium green.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Veil of Summer. 1 mana instant for single green. Draw a card if an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof, specifically from blue and black, until end of turn. Wheeler.
So here's the thing about Storm. There's a lot of ways you can build it. One of the ways in the past that the deck has been approached is with green. So you're more based off like a bug shell, and you have a lot of controlling elements to it. That idea was pushed to the side because red just also offered similar disruptive elements as well as some of the rituals. But now, since then, we've received like Assassin's Trophy, we've received now Veil of Autumn, other effects.
Veil of Summer.
Yeah, I'm talking about Autumn's Veil. Veil of Summer.
Yeah.
So we've received multiple effects like this that let you cut the red, let you cut the white, so you can do just a
Because you don't need
straightforward...
Silence or Orim's Chant if you have an effect like
Right,
Veil of Summer,
exactly.
right?
And this one draws you a card.
And you have City of Solitude.
Yeah, City
real
of Solitude, Dosan the Fault. No, don't play.
Whoa,
Don't
okay.
play
Yeah,
Dosan.
Dosan.
Don't play Dosan.
So you feel with Veil of Summer, there's now an argument to be made for green-based combo decks using this to protect themselves the turn they'd like to go for the win?
Yeah, if you're in a bug deck, Storm is the one that jumps up because you're not really looking to play too much reactive stuff. Like, I've never really been in the camp where I'm super into Force of Will or Mana Drain in your Storm point spread.
Or
Flusterstorm. Yeah, basically that kind of stuff. But getting down to 3 colors is really important too for other pieces, like Bubbling Muck being a lot easier to reach. It's a black high tide. So the more cards you get for this, like, it does a lot for how the archetype as a whole can be approached, which I think is very interesting and very neat, and I'm glad they gave us this.
It's also way better than Autumn's Veil. Like,
Yes, very
like
much so.
so much better.
In this style of deck, do you play Heroic Intervention?
No,
All right.
Even though it gives you hexproof?
Not worth it.
but it's 2 mana.
And it doesn't draw
and
you a card.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the hexproof part is maybe a little bit less
I'm all
relevant.
about that. Can't be countered.
That's
Although, relevantly, this also stops stuff like Vendilion Clique from hitting you, which is pretty spicy.
or just yeah. Okay. Next up, Vivienne, Arcbow Ranger.
Twang.
4 mana, 4/4 gets milled to Mana George, or George Miller or whatever. Yeah, never mind. It's a joke from the pre-release. I cast. There's a 3 mana 2/2 flyer that mills 4. Every time I cast it, I milled my Vivienne.
Why'd you call it Mana George?
I screwed it up. I meant to say
'cause
George
it's
Miller.
a different George.
Okay.
I got the wrong George. I'm sorry.
This is why
it's
people
Georging
think
Vulture.
incidental mill is
Oh,
good.
George Vulture.
Anyway.
But-
4 mana loyalty planeswalker for 1 green. +1 ability. Distribute 2 +1/+1 counters amongst up to 2 target creatures. They gain trample until end of turn. -3, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. Notably not a fight, it's a punch. And -5, you may choose a creature card you own from outside the game, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Jer, we only have 2 abilities that are relevant to Highlander because we don't have a sideboard, so the -5 doesn't work. What do you think of Vivienne?
Her Her 2 abilities are really good, but at 4 mana, and considering she's really color intensive, I just think there's likely going to be better options. Her abilities are good, so like I could see playing her. I'll probably test her out at some point, but
I mean,
I'm not hugely optimistic unless you're really trying to jam many for CMC walkers.
All right. And the final green card we're going to talk about today is the Wake Root Elemental. 6 mana 5/5 for 4 green, creature type elemental. And then for green, so 5 green pips. Untap target land you control. It becomes a 5/5 elemental creature with haste and is still a land. Jared, take us home.
I think this card has some amount of combo potential. It's pretty easy to go infinite with Gaia's Cradle or Nykthos in a hoof deck if either of those lands generate more than 5 green, which is, a chore, but certainly not impossible for those decks. You get as much green mana as your little heart desires, and Hoof is a deck that can definitely do some good things with as much green mana as they want.
Mana.
Usually it ends up with them winning the game.
Yeah. So the interaction you're talking about here specifically is pay 5 and then untap target land you control.
Yeah.
As sort of a combo payoff, as opposed to sort of like you get 5/5 that. You're like, no, this is an untap engine.
And like, I actually think this sort of fits Hoof's like more mid-rangey game plan as well. It's like not the best threat, especially for 6 mana you can play, but like it's definitely going to win you some games the fair way too. So
cool.
I don't know. Not the worst card to play.
All right, let's move on to gold cards. The first one we're going to talk about today is a card we talked about a lot in the last Highlander Summer League, Corpse Knight, notably not a 2/3. So for a white and a black, you get a Zombie Knight 2/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life. Let's start with Alex.
It's 11. I mean, it goes in the zombie deck, the white version, which is very slowly getting better, unexpectedly. I mean, it's not quite a Blood Artist, but it's a very playable 2-drop.
And let's throw to Jer now. Jer, you've been excited about this card. Why?
Because it's a great win condition for Allurin.
Oh!
Which is the deck that I've been playing on the summer Friday Night Paper Fight Canlander League.
So what does Allurin do really quickly, and how does this card help you?
So Allurin's 2 green for an enchantment that says both players can cast creatures with CMC 3 or less whenever they could play an instant and without paying their mana cost. And you have a big chain that ends up with you bouncing a bunch of creatures in and out of play. And currently there's only one way to actually win the game. You can do a lot of other good things. You can get any CMC 3 or less creature from your deck and recur them as much as you want. So your opponent likely won't have many things going on if your Parasitic Strix is somehow incapacitated.
You mean you killed me even though I killed your Parasitic Strix?
I can get it back, but like if somebody does something while Parasitic Strix is on the stack, you got to have a backup. And also, Corpse Knight's just cleaner. It doesn't target, which comes up occasionally. Like Shalai is a very playable card in this format. And also, you can just win with like a Dreamstalker or a Manowar bouncing itself, which is kind of sweet. Just less pieces lets you like oops into winning with Allurin a little bit better.
All right, next up, Creeping Trailblazer. Now, I'm very curious about this card. Red-green gets you a 2/2 elemental. Other elementals you control get +1/+0. And for 4 mana, 2 red-green, Creeping Trailblazer gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each elemental you control. Wheeler, is there an elemental deck now?
No, there's not, Serge. Elementals, there's not enough, still not enough density, really, to have something that resembles a competitively viable deck. There we go. You want more effects like these, much like Alex, can you plug your ears for a hot second? Just plug your ears. Much like zombies or vampires, these decks can function in a certain capacity of just playing creatures that benefit from other creatures, and then you try to like sway your inclusions to be more focused on card quality. But then ultimately, you're making so many sacrifices for the tribal synergy. So then you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? And with elementals, most certainly not right now.
All right. Next up, Empyrion Eagle. 3 mana, 2/3 bird spirit for 1 a white and a blue, has flying, and other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. Alex.
Bang! So there was a card. It's been ages since I built Blue-White Skies, which is a deck that I have a reasonable amount of fondness for. It's like maybe one of the only blue-based decks, or blue including decks that I play. There was a 4-drop version of this creature that I think may have had. Can I help?
Thunderclap Wyvern.
Was that really necessary?
Yes, it was.
This is 1 mana less.
Cool.
It pumps your whole board, and you play nothing but flyers. It's got 3 toughness. It seems very good.
Do you think this makes the Blue-White Skies deck better? Like, was this a deck that was hurting for Lords?
I don't know. It's been honestly, it's been such a long time since I played it.
It's an upgrade from...
Yeah, it makes it better.
It's an upgrade from a 4-drop one. Like,
You
if
still
you're...
probably play both. I'm sure there's something better to cut.
Yeah,
But
there's some dank cards.
Oh, I can't believe I have to cut one of these 2 mana 2/1 flyers.
oh no, not my Welkin turn.
No, it's the
No,
best
my
one.
No, it's not. It can only
Vaporkin.
block fires.
No, it has the best art.
All right.
It's a bird.
Let's talk about Kalia, the Zenith Seeker. 3 mana, 3/3 for Mardu, legendary creature, human cleric, has flying and vigilance, and now there's a lot of words. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal an angel, a demon, and or a dragon from amongst them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Alex, you like Mardu midrange. What do you think of Kalia?
This is a weird card. There's like being a bunch of like 3-drop Mardu creatures that are like pretty good. There was what's his nose, the vampire guy who
Mathis.
Yeah,
That
Mathis,
card's
who
really
like
good.
he seems really good.
Can confirm.
So
And like a 3/3 flying vigilance is like
that's what I was going to say.
good on curve.
If you ignored all the other text and you just played it as a 3/3 flying vigilance creature from Mardu, are you happy, or do you really need that second bit to hit anything? And is there an angel and or demon and or dragon deck that this can go into?
So here's the weird part about that ability is that she's not expensive mana-wise. And she finds a bunch of cards that are.
Yeah.
So what deck plays this?
I don't know. It finds Tombstalker, finds
A lot of really good,
Embodiment of Agony.
yeah, face escaping from chest demon.
well, a lot of the really good
Resto Angel.
there's a lot of really good angels. There's a lot of really good dragons at 4 and 5. Are they in a Mardu deck?
I mean, this might be a whole new archetype. It's like, well, maybe not a whole new archetype, but it's just like Mardu flying somehow.
I mean, if you do a Mardu midrange deck with just a bunch of, like, you go triple Moxen and like Mana Vault, and you just get really goddamn greedy, and you try to just play dragons and other flying threats, I'm kind of into that.
Yeah,
Alright.
I mean,
I'm kind of into that.
All right. Let me just. What other card looks at the top 6 for any creature, not just angels, demons, or dragons? It's a green instant.
A Woodland Bellower when my opponent has an Aven Mind Sensor in play and I'm cheating?
Okay. It's Collected Company. What are our collective views on the card Collected Company?
Sucks.
Yeah. That finds 2 creatures,
And puts them in-
and you're
yeah.
likely going to have way more creatures in a Collected Company deck than you are going to have angels, demons, and dragons in any deck ever printed.
that's fair.
But Kalia is also a body.
You're
Sure.
guaranteed a body with
Yeah.
this.
Yep.
She also triggers every time you attack. Oh no, it
No,
just
no,
once.
only
never
TV.
mind.
No, she doesn't.
Oh,
That's
wow.
original Kalia.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to another legendary creature.
Creature.
Kikar or Kaikar? How would you pronounce this one?
Kaikar.
Kaikar wins Fury. 4 mana, 3/3 bird wizard for 1 and Jeskai has flying, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token also with flying, and sack a spirit, add a red mana. Jer.
All right. I know what Ben's going to say. It dies to Bold. But I really like this card. The amount of value you can get from it is huge. He's also going to start doing his Caracas acronym again. But
Give me a K.
My bit.
Give me a K.
just stealing his thunder. This card is really cool. It's definitely better than Talrand. Probably better than Mystic, Murmuring Mystic.
Murmuring Mystic's a 1/5.
I play that card in blue-white control. It's in my list right now. I think the Sacrifice of Spirit thing may come up at times. That's kind of cool. If you like have some spirits you can tap out for a thing and then block and sack them to cast burn spells, that could be relevant. I also just think a 3/3 flying body is much better than a 2/2 that doesn't fly and or a 1/5 in the right deck. Like a 3/3 flyer can reasonably clock an opponent by itself, whereas a 1/5 is you're gonna be hard pressed to get the job done.
So Bolt Caracas push removal aside, also Jeskai mana aside, I'm higher on this card than I was originally, just because I think that like Force of Negation's really good.
Yep.
Force of Will is really good.
So is Daze.
Pact of Negation is really good.
Yep.
Which, if you hit 4 and this resolves, and they try to kill it and you pact, you get the spirit so that you'll have 5 to pay for the pact. So, I think there's more. I mean, it's living dangerously, but I mean that's what I'm here for.
Bold. All right.
The card's better than I thought, but I'm still just very hesitant as to why you would want to play this over the other. Like, I'm not.
This is competing with Lightning Angel for your favorite slot in Jeskai.
Well, like Lightning Angel, Resto Angel, Palace Jailer, whatnot. Like the 4s in that deck, it's so like it was originally very clogged, and now even more so, right? Just like Chandra, Gideon, Jace.
Well, I think at that point you just get to pick your poison, express yourself.
I just think I've always been higher on the army in a can creatures than you have. I remember one of the few changes I made to the Jeskai build when we were both playing it. I took your list and made a couple tweaks, but it was like 94 cards the same or something. But one of the changes I made was I added Monastery Mentor. Yeah. And I was always super stoked with that card in the deck. So
yeah, I'm just always more a fan of cards. I really like Mentor, but I like Mentor when I'm like popping off with it. And I find like a lot of decks with this don't tend to pop off. The way the format has evolved over the years, and like especially the cards that Jeskai and Blue-White have received, more low drop things, again, like Force of Negation, the Teferi, Narset, whatever it may be. Like now I'm more into Monastery Mentor and those kind of decks, but I'm still not opened up to including cards like Murmuring Mystic or cards like Kaikar.
All right, let's move on to our next card, Lightning Stormkin.
Like we're going to say Lightning Angel.
2 mana 2/2 for a blue and a red. Gets you an elemental wizard with flying and haste. Wheeler.
Speedy Speed Boy. This card's fine. This card's good. This is what Storm Chaser Mage wishes it was. That's like
pretty much.
Like, there's not a lot to say because it's just an evasive threat that beats down.
What deck?
Is it tempo? Is it... You could even just play this in the Blitz deck. Like, the Blitz decks where you're playing multiple spells a turn is where a Storm Chaser Mage might look relevant. But realistically, I just want to go, Goblin Guide this thing, never tap out, and kill them.
Wow, yeah. Or, I mean, you could give it to Runechanter's Pike.
Yeah, slap a Curious Obsession on this. You could play it in the Jeskai Skies list as well, where you're like Mantis Rider into Lightning Angel and play this, and you're just like really bashing in the air with a bunch of haste threats into a dragon or whatnot.
It's good.
Yeah, card's great.
All right, next up, Omnath, Locus of the Royal.
Another one?
4 mana 3/3, again, this time for 1 and a rug, 1 and a teamer. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals you control. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target elemental you control, and if you control 8 or more lands, draw a card. Now, I'm going to throw this one to myself. The second ability is interesting. The second ability is very interesting. As we mentioned earlier, I don't know if there's enough elementals to really make the first ability that relevant, but I'm already playing Horn of Greed. Yeah. 3 mana enchantment that every time...
That's a hell of a stretch.
That every time...
Take me to the river, drop
every
me
time-
in the water.
Every time you play a land, draw a card which is symmetrical.
If you control 8 lands.
Omnath is like a one-sided Horn of Greed that also kills them.
Holy cow.
That is... God, good thing he's made a
Surge.
flubber, because that's a big stretch right there.
Yeah? Remember your microphone?
Omnath is a 3/3 for 4.
Yeah? All right, so maybe I'm being a little greedy here when I think about this.
Oh, that's transcended greed. That's just delusional.
All right, well, maybe I'll leave my dreams aside and let's move on to the next card, Risen Reef. 3 mana 1/1 elemental. When it or another elemental enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. This is kind of another more expensive Coiling Oracle.
That triggers off every elemental.
But that also triggers off of every elemental. And I know we've been talking about there's no Elementals Matters deck, but this card is very, very interesting to me. And I wonder if there's enough incidental elementals or if this card does enough by itself to warrant play.
I just want to pop off with Young Pyromancer one
I was
time.
just thinking that.
When people see cards like this, they immediately go to, like, they take the knob and crank it to, like, full tribal. But, like, the incidental elemental.
That's what I'm curious about.
Is-
The incidental elemental.
Yeah, the incidental elemental. I'm all about that. The incidental elemental is incremental value.
My brain.
And I'm not sure how often the paths of Young Pyromancer Risen Reef will be.
In your Omnath deck there, my friend. They're already the right colors.
Rug
Yeah.
Time Walks.
No, but
Do you
like
guys know him?
for Rug Time Walks with element Rug for Young Py, I can't even process trying to like maybe
Okay.
in the Sultai Walk Pod that has a couple of elementals that not a lot, but it's a card that replaces itself for ramps.
Like this card draws a card when it comes into play.
Yes.
Or
better.
potentially, or better. Like it is very close to being good enough to play by itself. I said very close. I didn't say play.
Alright, yeah.
Because I'll play Coiling Oracle any day, right?
Oh,
that card,
yeah.
that card's great, right?
Oracle's great.
I mean,
Oracle's
you want to talk
great.
about cards or decks this goes in. Hit me up with that Allurn, dude.
How many other elementals, incidental elementals you play?
Maybe
you
none.
need
Doesn't matter.
I'll tell you what, Bobby. In about 3 to 5 years, when enough elementals have been printed, maybe this guy gets into your deck.
You're gonna sit here and smoke all those elementals.
All right. Moving on. Sky Knight Vanguard. Red and a white gets you a 1/2 human knight with flying, and whenever it attacks, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token that's tapped and attacking. Alex.
Aggro. I mean, it's another card for the maybe Boros aggro deck, which is still kind of trying to find its feet. It's been a while since anybody built it, if I'm not wrong.
Slap some Captain's Claws on this bad boy.
You're really high on that card, aren't you?
I like Captain's Claws.
But that's very good.
I think this card's really cool.
Yeah.
Like-
and pretty good.
Yeah,
I
I
also
mean-
love the flavor text.
Jump now.
I mean, it having evasion makes its likelihood of making more than one soldier per turn higher. Because the problem with creatures like this is that like you crash in, you make your token, and then they're like, I am 1000% going to block this.
Yeah.
And this one's harder to block.
What do you think about this compared to Precinct Captain?
actual Precinct Captain.
Yeah. Which is a 2/2 for 2 with first strike for white, and it makes a 1/1 after it deals combat damage. So you get the
think
1/1
this is
later,
better.
but it has first strike. Interesting.
Yeah,
Jared says better.
I think
better.
Jared might be right because
Holds equipment better.
yeah,
Has evasion.
Precinct Captain was, I think, definitely a step in the right direction because having first strike at least gives it some ability to live through combat to make more than one token. Flying is great. Making the creature tapped and attacking is also nuts.
So Precinct Captain, you feel powerful. If you cast that on turn 1 or turn 2, you're just like, wow, this is a card that can take over the game.
You feel powerful.
I do. I look at that, of the number of cards that I want to cast on turn 1 or turn 2 as a 2-drop, I feel good when I cast a
Also,
Precinct Captain, right?
I don't know how, if we're talking about incidental stuff, this is a human Knigget,
Yeah.
so that's good.
All right.
Right, Night Tribal.
Hey.
All right, next up, Tomb-Bound Lich. 3 mana 1/3 for a white, or a generic, a blue and a black. Zombie Wizard has Death Touch, Lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, draw a card and then discard a card. Alex, Zombie Wizard Mastered. Evaluate this card.
There's a lot of text on the card, and he looks really cool. I would definitely try this guy out. He's got plenty of keywords. Death Touch on a 1/3 is pretty sweet. It's weirdly defensive for... Zombies is trying to figure out what the heck kind of deck it is, and it depends on what you put in it and what color sort of pairings you choose. But yeah, it does a bunch of stuff. It's all good stuff. It's not very expensive. It's a zombie and a wizard.
All right.
I like this card.
Would you play this in Reanimator outside of World Gorger where it's just an auto-include?
Probably, yeah. It's
I think I'd play it.
the lengths that people have gone to have life gain attached to a blue-black creature.
Yeah.
People have played Contraband Kingpin in decks without artifacts.
It's true.
And the fact,
Why?
Because
You want to not
name 3
die to
cards for
Goblin
blue
Guide.
black that have lifelink or some way of not causing you to die from 1 to 3.
Vampire Nighthawk.
Okay, we got 1.
Aetherborn.
Vampire Tony Hawk.
So we got black, we got black, and then we have
Moment
a
of
pro
craving.
skater. -2, got it.
I don't know.
There's
That's all I
not
got.
there's not
Yeah.
a lot.
All right.
So throwing this in a list that can take advantage of looting and then also be a reasonable disruptive threat, it's just another Baleful Strix that also, well, I don't want to go that far. Don't quote me on that.
Not
But
as good as Bill.
it's definitely not as good, but for Reanimator, being able to put something into the graveyard, going infinite with World Gorger shenanigans, and also just providing a real road bump for your red decks, and then again the blue matchup, you get repeatable. They have to do something about it, or else you're getting repeatable
I was
advantage.
gonna say this is more than a road bump. This is a big pain up.
And it
Red's
doesn't get
butt.
chump blocked very well. It doesn't. It beats Trinket Mage, Snapcaster Mage, all those random dirtles in combat. So the chances of you getting to attack, and as Ben said, getting multiple activations out of this, especially if you're a Reanimator deck, is a big deal.
Cool.
Okay, I'm even higher on this now.
All right, and our last gold card that we're going to talk about today, Yarok the Desecrated.
What the?
5 mana 3/5 elemental horror for 2 and a bug. Death Touch, Lifelink. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So it's Panharmonicon stapled to a 3/5 Death Touch, Lifelink elemental horror. Jer, your thoughts?
This card is super sweet. I'm sure I'm gonna play it. I'm not certain where the best home is yet. It's probably all right. It's probably not competitively optimal. I think there could be a deck that is competitively viable, but
Would you stretch your Blink deck to 4 colors to include Yarok?
yes.
Is he
Found-
smoking?
I mean, no.
No.
Yeah, what?
I don't even see a
No,
mouth.
look, there's black stuff coming out his back.
That,
It's back.
oh,
Their back?
wrong
I
smoking.
think that's in the distance.
It's
maybe.
neck, it's back.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe in the Blink deck?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great. Haven't thought too much about it apart from the fact that it's sweet and I have a foil one sitting on my desk.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, I also have a foil.
All right.
Great.
Wow.
Great
All right.
commander card.
Let's move on then to our artifacts. First up, Golos, Tireless Pilgrim. Sad robot's not so lonely anymore, friends. So for 5 mana, you get a 3/5 legendary artifact creature type Scout. Interesting. I wonder how many Scouts there have been. Let's not derail. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for any land. Put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. And for 2 and a Wooburg, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana cost. Ben Wheeler.
Golos. I love this card. I was when it initially came out, I was like, okay, well that's kind of neat. It finds Academy and it's easy to cast, and I guess you can find other things. And then I started playing with it and putting it out through Mishra's Workshop and other things. I'm like, oh wait, this card is just kind of an auto include in every Academy deck for the rest of time. Being a road bump is great. Being an actual way of killing people too, or pressuring planeswalkers, is great. Obviously, finding Tolarian Academy, Academy Ruins, Inventor's Fair, Mishra's Workshop, Minamo, Deserted Temple,
Wasteland,
Ruin, Waste
Blast Zone.
Strip, Blast Zone, Caracas,
Okay,
Sarah
so
Sanctum.
Academy, yes.
Yes.
Outside of Academy.
I mean, probably. I'm playing it in a big white deck too.
Like, I wonder if this is worth...
Pardon?
I mean, I can say that. I'll be playing it before this episode goes live. But, like, it finds Sarah Sanctum and Ancient Tombs and whatnot, and, like...
I wonder if we should play it in lands. Like, the 5 mana spot
Too
is...
slow.
Is it too slow?
Yeah.
How relevant is the activated ability?
RIP Paradox Engine, but it's really good with Paradox Engine because you have a series of talismans and signets that you'll play, or Glimmer Voids
might
or
give you
whatever,
Warburg.
that you get to it. Yeah, and you get to pop off.
I think I missed something. What's RIP Paradox?
It abandoned
Commander.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Don't
All
worry
right.
about it.
So obviously auto include there. I think a lot of people are going to be trying to find fun places to play this. You don't think in a lot of the big mana decks. So here's an example: Hoof trying to finish off Dark Depths Thespian stage combo, or to get Cradle.
Oh,
Not
I don't think so. But
Well, okay, so like you can play it off channel, which is kind of cute. That's just coming up to me right now. Just throwing that out there. But like if you do a 1 into a 3, and then like playing another dork, so like if you're looking for a hoof, right, you have to look at the progressions that deck can kind of have. So like 1 drop into 2 more mana accelerants, and then congratulations, you're at 5 mana on turn 3 or whatever it may be, or not. You're at 6 mana, but I'm assuming 1 dies, because that'll happen.
Yeah,
and
right?
it's not the one on turn 1.
Yes.
Always lucky.
Like you will get to 5 for that deck quite quickly, and like but like what you're finding, like Hoof doesn't need Gaia's Cradle to pop off,
Especially when you're already going 5 mana on turn 3.
Sure.
but it's not against having it. But like Academy decks, so many inclusions in Academy decks are based around the fact that it's their goddamn name. Like they're based around having Academy. I could see this in Enchantress. I'm surprised you're not more excited.
I'm very excited
You
about
get
this
fertile
card.
grounds on things, and you can start activating it, and you get Sarah's Sanctum,
Yeah.
Hall of Heliod's Generosity, the symbol of his church. Like
So,
you got
last question I have for this one is: a lot of decks used to play Solemn Simulacrum just as a way to ramp, like the old Sad Robot.
yes.
Do you think decks that used to like that at 4 would enjoy this card at 5 with the more flexibility it gets? It doesn't get you a basic land. Like I used to think of even like a blue-black control list, playing Solemn to go from 4 mana to 6 mana so it could play its threat.
We've come a long way
Yeah.
from control decks going like Signet into Sad Robot.
Yep.
Even ramp decks being like Rampant Growth into Sad Robot.
Yeah.
Like there are just better things to do after you ramp than more ramping.
Than to ramp again.
And then if you are ramping after ramping, then
You're
that
ramping
ramp
real hard.
is really good. Yeah, you're just like, all right, Hunting Wilds, let's go, or like Nissa's Renewal, and then big explosive things. Primeval Titan. So I'm gonna say no.
All right. Just figured we'd
yeah.
examine
Cards,
this card
100
from
yeah,
all of the
absolutely.
angles, of which there are many, because this card is cool.
The many angles of Golos.
All right. Let's talk about probably one of the single most powerful reprints in all of M20. Not reprints, one of the single most powerful new cards in M20, Manifold Key. 1 mana artifact, 1 in tap, untap another target artifact, 3 in tap, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Jer.
Yeah, this card's sweet. Goes straight into Time Vault. I don't throw this word around very often, but it's a strictly better Voltaic Key. No, Ben.
No, I'm not even going to actually you. But there's a genuine reason why this isn't better than Voltaic Key.
Is not better.
It is not better.
What's that?
So there are loops that involve Voltaic Key in Academy decks and Eggs decks, where if you have a Rings of Brighthearth, and you will want to untap another artifact with key, and then Rings triggers, and you create the copy to untap itself.
Oh, because it says another target?
Right,
yes.
You're right.
Whoa.
You're right. Not strictly better.
But making your Blightsteel unblockable is pretty slick.
Yeah.
Okay.
But most of the time, this is better than Voltaic Key. You won't use the second ability very often, but when you do, it'll probably be very good.
Yep.
It's also just another Voltaic Key, so you can high roll people more with Time Vault. Yay, everyone loves it. Yeah. Also, decks that wanted Voltaic Key just get another copy. Means they have to tutor for it less.
Man,
That's good.
Oof's got his work cut out for him.
Good.
All right. Next up, a card we all know Wheeler's very excited about, the Mystic Forge. 4 mana artifact. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an artifact card or a colorless non-land card, and tap and pay 1 life. Exile the top card of your library. For those of you watching listening to the audio version, Ben has rolled up his sleeve and is caressing his sensei's divining top tattoo.
Yeah, that's going to draw a lot of cards with this. A
Yeah.
lot. I mean, you'll incorporate some other stuff, probably a Paradox Engine.
But that's the old interaction between Future Sight and Top.
Yes.
But you like this more than Future Sight.
Well, you can. I don't. Okay, so it's a parallel to make, but being colorless is pretty big, right? Again, you can workshop this into play. You can just getting triple blue seems you feel like it'd be easier than it is, given that you're playing a land that regularly adds over 10 blue every activation. But that's a very precious resource. Having one that is tutorable as well, you can set this up through a variety of your artifact tutors, and then being a combo piece through a bunch of other stuff as well. So like, you got really niche Paradox interactions with this Pristine Talisman and Paradox Engine, where you like pay a life to exile the top card, you tap your Pristine Talisman to gain life, you cast some other thing with your... Hey!
You're not wrong.
It's got reps. It's got tournament wins.
Yeah, all right.
You can potentially turn 1 with this too.
Yes.
Not unrealistically.
Oofa
You can't
doofa.
realistically turn 1 with either side.
No. This makes setting up your combo a lot easier.
Cool. What deck? This is in Paradox Academy. Anything else?
You could probably justify a slot in a different version of an Academy combo deck with like all the Helm of Awakenings, Ethereum Sculptor, that kind of stuff. There's like a blue-black Bolus's Citadel Tinker deck that I've been trying to break, and having more copies of this card is pretty cool and good.
Mono brown.
Oh yeah, and medium brown just loves it.
All right.
Loves it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And the last artifact we're going to talk about today, Salvager of Ruin.
Beep-boop.
3 mana, 2/1 construct. Sacrifice itself. Choose target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. Return it to your hand. Alex.
I don't even know what I'm going to do with this guy, but it's really cool. Regrow effects are fun. Regrow effects that are also artifacts are fun. It has a body on it as well. And it's a construct, importantly, which is something that's, I suspect, is going to be more relevant now that we have, what's it called, printed?
The thing that tutors for
The
constructs.
thing that tutors for constructs.
Scrapyard Recombiner.
That's the one. I'm probably going to add this to the pile of cards that I don't 100% understand for my sort of like red, black, artifact, red, black, red, artifact. I'm working on something.
Like, I look at this card when I think of Workshop Weenie as cards that are maybe a step below Hovermere, but still powerful cards that I want to cast off of Workshop.
All right, Ben. Can you explain to us why this card is on the list?
Okay, so this card goes infinite with a whole bunch of weird shenanigans, often involving Krark Clan Ironworks, Black Lotus, Scrap Trawler, Tolarian Academy, Zurin Orb, Fast Bond.
That's it?
That's just a short list.
What about, did you say Codex Shredder?
No, but Shredder most certainly is
All right, that's the one I was thinking.
Yeah,
So give us one example loop.
Okay, so we have a Fast Bond, we have a Tolarian Academy, we have a Zurin Orb, we have this creature, and then we have ideally a Codex Shredder. Or you can throw in Second Sunrises with the Codex Shredder as well. I don't have everything written out specifically.
Sure.
It's there.
So the idea is make a bunch of mana, sack it to the Zurin Orb, sacrifice this to get it back, replay the land, lose a life.
No,
Well,
net one life.
Importantly, this brings back
Shredder.
permanence, which is Shredder and Academy. It's not just bringing back artifacts. So there's flexibility in what you can return. This can also return Salvage Scout if you want to get really degenerate, which is a 1-mana 1/1 in white that has pay a white, sack it, return an artifact from the graveyard to your hand.
Okay.
I haven't written out everything.
Sure.
Because when I look at this card, my brain just goes, that's it. Like, it's just like, I know there's something busted there.
All right.
That's kind of where I went. And even though I don't build like degen combo decks, I was like, oh, this card's
yeah.
good, and I don't understand why.
And these lines sound very elaborate and like, Ben, this is a 9-piece combo. What are you talking about? But trust me, you'll get there.
Yeah.
that's how eggs works.
Yeah. I don't know. I might even think of this just, I wonder, all right, combo aside, I wonder if this provides enough value for one of those artifact-based aggro decks. It's a 2 and a 3, which is tough.
Do you want to double strip mine them?
Are you playing Strip Mine in the Workshop Weenie deck? You just want fast mana, right?
Yeah.
Or GT.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to lands. The first land we want to talk about today is the Cryptic Caves. So, taps for a colorless, or 1 tap and sacrifice it, draw a card, activate it only if you control 5 or more lands. Alex, what do you think of this?
So, it's the colorless version of the Horizon lands, but it has the caveat that you have to have lots of lands in play. I just think it's a neat effect. Cards like this that draw cards with a very low activation cost are kind of good, and once you get to the point in the game where you have 5 or more lands, you're probably not going to want to draw more lands, and you're going to want to draw non-land cards.
As the flavor text says, only when you've given up the search will the caves yield their secrets. I think that's very deep.
Indeed.
All right, next up we have Field of the Dead. Enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to produce a colorless. When Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. I like this a lot.
Ah, yeah?
I like this a lot. This works with Scapeshift, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
this is colorless
Yes.
Scapeshift. You can I mean you don't win the turn it works, but you untap with an entire army of zombies. What's up?
There's a guy climbing out.
I think there's a very big dead thing climbing out.
He's dead. That guy's dead.
Yeah, I think this card is really cool. I think anything that plays around Scapeshift but doesn't put you in red is very interesting and creates a bunch of new avenues for deck building. I was excited last episode for what was it
Dread
called?
Presence.
For Dread Presence
Oh,
as another way to
yeah.
look at that non-red Scapeshift wins. And I think this is really cool, and it's a lot easier in Canadian Highlander, where your lands are all going to have different names anyways. Ben.
Big brain play. So we play that mono black Storm Shell that had been kind of kicking it, the mono black ramp, but then you also have a Storm package. But we also just play Scapeshift.
Well, if we're splashing green, we might as well play Fast Bond and Regrowth while we're at it.
I'm also into that.
Yeah.
So you're just like basically mono black degeneracy, and then you have that light green splash for some fair cards like Fast Bond and,
And Heartbeat of Spring.
I don't know. I think this
Bubbling
card's
Monk.
sweet.
Squandered resources?
All right, and let's talk about our last card of the day, Lotus Field. Land with hexproof enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice 2 lands and tap to add 3 mana of any one color. Jer.
So the first 3 times I read this card, I didn't read that it came into play tapped, and I thought it was busted. Now that I have been made aware of the fact that it enters tapped,
You think it's fair?
it's certainly
so sorry.
fair. It's fine. Like, you can play it if you have some really pip intensive cards, but it's not going to do anything extremely busted. I think there is maybe room for it in lands where you want certain land cards in your graveyard, and it does enable some loops with Crucible and Fast Bond.
Do we like it in a Palancron deck? With like the sort of deck that's looking to untap lands that produce more than 1 mana.
Maybe. Ben might be excited
You
for a
can
second.
play this in an eggs deck. Okay, so Amulet of Vigor only costs 1 mana, which can be found off Trinket Mage or Artificer's Intuition. And if you're playing something like, Brought Back, a recent card that we covered, or anything that would put the
Float
lands...
white, play Lotus Field.
Does Amulet only do lands or permanents?
I believe it's permanent.
No, my Manglehorn!
Is it?
Can we bring up Amulet of Vigor for a second?
This is very important.
I need to know if I need to
Such a weird.
This is actually very...
throw my Manglehorns in the garbage
This is
or
of
not.
the utmost importance.
Either Ben or I are about to be very happy.
Amulet of Vigor reads,
Damn it!
whenever a permanent
Shakalaka!
enters the battlefield, tapped under your
All
control,
right.
untap it.
Manglehorn confirmed unplayable. Throw them in the garbage.
I've got some work to do.
All right. So
Everybody get your collector.
Anything that puts Tolarian Academy in the graveyard when I want it to get put there, I am A-okay with.
Interesting. All right. All right.
Okay.
So that's our set review, friends. I hope you enjoyed hearing our thoughts on M20. Now let us move to one of our closing segments, Powerful Magic. And up today is myself, and I want to share a story from Magic Fest Seattle, where I got to play a lot of blue-white tempo. First thoughts, TLDR, tempo sucks.
Wow.
Not in the way that it's bad, but in the way that it doesn't feel good.
We can work that out of you.
Like you are always living on what do you call it? The knife's edge, the edge of the blade.
The razor's edge.
The razor's edge. Thank you. I was like, something sharp and an edge, and you're on it. You like, even if you're winning,
and you hate that?
No,
It's like a roller coaster ride.
that's so stressful. I want to play a deck where either I'm winning or I'm
you're
not,
just like,
and it's clear.
Berserk. You don't like that?
So let me share this story with you. So I'm playing against another tempo deck. I'm in the tempo mirror. Everything sucks. It's game 3. Everything sucks. It's on turns in game 3, and everything sucks. So here's my board. I have a bunch of creatures. It's a gummed up board, but my board includes a Thalia, a Caracas, and a True Name Nemesis with a Curious Obsession on it. You'd think that would be enough for me to have the game cinched, but you'd be wrong. My opponent has a bunch of other creatures and a Batterskull. And because it's in turns, basically my opponent's at 5. So I can't just attack and win because of Batterskull, and my True Name couldn't get through and stuff like that. But if I don't attack, I lose Curious Obsession, which is very bad. So if I hold True Name back in order to trade with the Batterskull token, we're going to go to a draw. Like, the game is not close enough to go there. So I basically have to attack with True Name every time to get there. But luckily, I have Thalia and a Caracas. So every time my opponent attacks him with the Batterskull, which I do every turn, I block with Thalia, I activate Caracas, I bring it back to my hand, I recast it next turn. So in my head, I'm like, okay, we're at turns. I can win in 2 turns. I can attack with everything. This is fine. So, first game we attack. I get my opponent to 5. Everything is fine. Okay. Then my opponent on turn 2 plays 3 mana Gideon. The one that says, make an emblem, you can't lose the game if you have a Gideon Planeswalker. And I'm like, that's so stressful. I hate this. And then, to make matters worse, they strip mine my Caracas. So the loop isn't there anymore. So I'm like, okay, everything sucks.
And they played a flyer.
And I'm like, see? I thought I was winning, and now everything sucks, and it goes away.
And the flyer is important. I watched the game.
Okay.
And the flyer is important because they were threatening to equip Batterskull to the flyer, which was currently unopposed on Serge's board, and gain a bajillion life.
So everything sucks. I have to spend my turn there using True Name to kill their Gideon. And somehow the Monarchy is relevant in this whole thing. So I pass back. With the Monarchy, I draw a very exciting card. They spend their turn. They go to equip the Batterskull onto the flyer. I drew a removal spell, kill the flyer.
Okay.
They are now very unhappy. They pass back to me. They're at 5. Everything is dead. I'm trying to figure out what it goes. I end up having 4 mana Gideon.
Yeah.
Play it, emblem for the 1 extra point of damage needed to basically attack in for the win. But it's just like, it's so stressful. It's just like, everything about this archetype, everything about...
Serge, it was a sick game.
Two things. One, what you're describing is like the reason why people play this game. Most of the people. And 2, you're just complaining about interactive Magic. You're like, this was unbelievable. Our game had ups and downs. We both had really cool plays and interactions.
I kept trying to beat my opponent with degenerate garbage.
It was unbelievable.
Answering it.
They only got to activate Wasteland once. Who does that?
It was actually an amazing game of Magic. But the issue was, every time I played a 3-round tournament of Tempo, I was exhausted. I just wanted to go nap. I didn't have time to nap.
You're not used to your opponent's things mattering.
This is the kind of Magic Serge wants to play. He wants to put them in a gunny sack and hit them with a big branch until it goes flat.
Oh God.
With a big smile ear to ear.
While laughing.
It's just like crack, crack, thump, thump, thump.
All right, friends. Well,
and then somehow you get out of the bag and you ask him to play again. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching our episode and our set reviews. I hope you enjoyed it. Reminder that Northwind Hunter is brought to you by your support at the Patreon over at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. I hope you have a wonderful time, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.